which says we are live. Go live on there too. Says we are live. Okay, wait for some people to get in here. I'll go over here to share this. Okay, so we'll go there. Set it there so I can see the chat from Facebook. We're live on TikTok. We're live on Facebook. The legend. We're already getting comments about the legend being here already. This just started.
Now, how do I see them, Freebie? The comments.
So they're under the live feed on Facebook, which I don't think I think I could be wrong, but they might. Which no, I don't have it set up like that. Or is I don't know. I think the way it's set up currently is I think you have to be able to look at the stream itself to see it. Which if there's any comments worth reading, I'll let you know. Okay, we got some viewers roll in here, so let's get this thing started. Ladies and gentlemen, Pete Hansen. I don't know if you guys know who this guy is. He's kind of like a local booger eater, in the backwoods of Pennsylvania. But so who are you, Pete Hansen? What are you known for?
I'm a two-fingered booger eater. Let's get it right. Come on now. What am I known for? I don't know. Pork Chop always gave me he was the one that said I make people fly, like Peter Pan.
I did. So I have, when I was like 10, one of the years you ran at the Bash, I got one of your shirts that says, it was my name's Pete Hansen and I can make anybody fly. I think something along them lines, I believe. Do you remember that experience?
Oh, yeah. We still got some of them around. We're actually I talked to my wife the other day and I thought everybody says, everybody's always asking for shirts and this and that. And so I think we're going to do an apparel line.
Fun. So going to your first shirts, what made you decide to make Pete Hansen t-shirts?
Everybody else was doing it. You had to be the cool kid, you wanted to be like the next guy. My problem was when I get to a show, I don't have time.
Yeah.
I leave my phone in the truck. I don't answer no phone calls. I don't do none of that stuff. I'm there to do my job, and that's what I'm there to do, and try to get the car through tech, which is, it's not very easy sometimes when you're me.
Why do you think that is, Pete?
I think more so when my car shows up. I mean, okay, the name has a little to do with it, but when you look at my car, everything is detail. You know what I mean? I don't just have one or two of the things done. I got everything possibly you could do, to make that car the best it could be, because I don't leave nothing unturned. I make sure I touch every part of that car with what the rules say. I don't slack. I'm not lazy. I don't let anything, that'll be all right. That's not me.
I get you. So where do you think that characteristic comes from?
Well, as a kid growing up, I sat in the stands, watched my dad derby, and I watched him get his butt beat time after time after time. Now, mind you, I didn't get into a car until I was 16, and I was at the county fair when I was a baby. My mom said that she had me in her arms when I was a baby in the stands. So I grew up my whole life watching Dad derby, just at our local county fair, two of them.
Yeah.
And I'd watch him, and he was the guy that'd go out there. He was the mad dog. He'd go out there and hold her right flat to the floor, 5, 6, 7 big hits, and he'd jump. he had one trophy in all them years, and it was a little heat win trophy. I mean, the thing was only probably 6 inches tall, and it's just watching my dad get beat, watching him get beat. And when I come onto the platform, you know, to run with Dad, that changed the whole outcome. Like, I didn't let him, like, he'd get an old car and the spark plug wires would be chewed up by a mouse. Well, he's the guy that just go get a roll of black tape and he'd tape them babies up. That's good enough. And I'm like, Dad, no, we got to put new ones on. He's like, no, this is a derby car. I'm like, Dad, come on. So I was fortunate enough. I had a neighbor down the road that was big into dirt modifieds and late models and stuff. So all my spare time was always down there. So I learned a lot about engines, tuning, all that stuff. So I took a lot of what I learned there and brought it over onto the derby side. I mean, don't get me wrong, we never had built motors for a long time, but I could take an old 350 or a small block Mopar and make her run good.
I get what you're saying. So, like, going back to that time, like, what was your first car exactly?
My first car was a 75 Chevy Malibu, two-door Malibu.
So what was the thinking behind the Malibu, or was it just like your first car or something you got, or what was the story behind it?
Back then there was no thinking. Find a car, take the windows out, move the batteries, move the gas tank inside. Took some of the tips and tricks my dad knew. You know, he said everything has to be inside a garden hose or a hose covering the fuel line, the everything, every wire that comes through, you know, and just happened to find that car and stripped it. And my second car was well, I built two for that. Our county fair had 2 nights at that time when I was 16. The other one was a 74 Gran Torino station wagon, Ford station wagon, you know. And it's funny because both nights, like I said, my dad never only won one heat in all them years. Both nights, we both won our heats, and it come down to me and him both nights that year.
Who won?
Dad.
He could have let you win that one.
He wouldn't let. He never would. One time he says, oh God, he says to me, he says, tonight I'll let you win. I says, and I said to him, smart, you know how we are as young kids. You ain't gonna let me win. I'm gonna whoop your ass, old man. I told him. Well, we got to come down to me and him, and we battled. I mean, we were headlight to headlight. Broke the air cleaner right off the top of my 2G, and it fell down behind the distributor cap. I mean, it was rough. We knocked valve covers off and everything. I mean, we destroyed stuff, just me and him. The Derby, we'd had it won. Our cars would be decent because we drove kind of like you did. And then we'd back them to the walls and hold them wide open and junk them on each other, you know. And we ended up that night, he still beat me.
So what changed from your dad becoming like the mad dog or the guy that just goes out there and lays it down to like when you came onto the scene to like being the more laid back guy? Was it because of you, or like what do you think the reasoning behind all that was?
You know, I really don't know. I still think about it today, what really made the difference. What made Dad make it to the end? Did he lay back, or did he, you know, the first couple of years back then we were allowed to pick our heats. So the first 2 years we'd both run heat one, because it's ideally you want to run heat one because then you got all that extra time to work on your car for the feature. And so we'd run heat one, and I really don't know if it was just me out there helping him or, you know, whatever it may be. I looked back on it a few times and couldn't answer it. I think just what I brought to the table to push him a little farther to do this or do that made a huge difference. You know, he didn't know how to weld. So when I come onto the picture, we were welding rears. So, you know, we had an old David Brown farm tractor with a PTO shaft driven generator with the old stick welder onto it. We'd back that up there, jack it up, and clean it up real good with some gasoline, and I'd weld her up with a stick welder, you know?
So, do you think that like father-son like rivalry is what led you to be such a great competitor in today, like nowadays?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, because it pushed me to try to beat my dad. That was the main thing, you know? And I think that's what drove me. And when I did beat him, he was never able to beat me again.
So, when did you first beat your dad? How many runs did it take?
I think it was 3 years roughly before I did get him. I was probably 19 when I finally got him. You know, I finally wised up and said, listen, I tried to do some things my way, wouldn't listen to him. You know, I tried a different way to mount my batteries, and they slid and pinched fuel line, and I had different failures, you know, and the old man would say, well, I told you, you idiot. That's all he'd say to me, you know, and finally I just said, you know what? Maybe it's a good idea to listen to the old man, and I did, and it paid off. And of course, when I started really pushing envelopes and doing this and doing that and starting to, I'd say, well, before 2012, I built all my own engines. Everything was built in-house. You know, 2012 was when I contacted Brent Johnson, and he'd tell you the story. It's kind of funny. I second guessed his talents, and I said, I sure hope you can make a motor run as good as I can. And I did. I ain't lying. He'd tell you the story. He picks on me some days about it. But it definitely, my old man, when I started buying engines and doing all that, my dad said, he called me every dumb, retarded, stupid, you know. I mean, he was proud of me, but I know he was pissed at me because I was wasting money.
What would your dad say if he saw one of your cars nowadays?
Oh, God. I really don't. I mean, I guess there ain't much difference, you know, 6 years ago to today. It's almost 7 years ago to today. There ain't a ton of difference. A little bit, not a ton.
So I know your dad passed not too long. What was the last big show he got to watch you run?
It had to be the Bash for Cash, I would think. I'm just trying to go back through my head to try to figure it out, you know. I think it was the Bash, 2018, 17. Yeah, it would have been the Bash, because that was about the only big show I ran them years.
Did he ever run any like bigger high profile shows like that with you?
No, he did not. He never moved up with me. You know what I mean? He kind of thought it was kind of stupid, and you know, he never moved up. You know, he just kind of stayed him, and he was that old school stock kind of guy.
So what was your dad's favorite type of car to run?
Well, we ran a lot of Mopars, and we ran a lot of GMs. And I think the Chevy wagon would top the list of mine and his favorite car back then in the stock days.
So was he more of a backwards driver, or was he just like, let's blow the nose off of this thing?
Nope. He was a backwards guy. Come home, the car wouldn't have a scratch on the front, and the back would be junked. Yeah. The old school way, save the radiator, you know?
100%. So after your dad passed, what was like the next big show you went to basically honor his memory?
Well, we just bounced really. We bounced around kind of some county fair stuff. what we had left was the Bash for Cash wagon, my first wagon there that I ran at the Bash, and we bounced around. I don't think I ran any. My memory sucks anymore, but I don't think we really touched any big shows for a little while there. I think the next time I went to a big show, well, yeah, I did. Was the Impala at the Bash. I had the roof sign made. It had his numbers onto it with the angel wings. George High Note made it for me, did an awesome job at it. We actually ran that roof sign. Where the hell, what car? We had it on the wagon at Iron City.
So I remember a story when I was talking to Logan one time. It was when you guys were out there in Vegas. Don't you have, I forget what it was, but don't you have something like you had his ashes poured into something and you couldn't find it or something, and you said, if we don't find this, I'm not running the heat out here in Vegas?
No. What had happened is I carry my dad everywhere I go. I got a little urn, a little fish, because we did a ton of fishing together, and I always keep them in my pocket. So we're out there doing our thing. We got to change the transmission in Corey's car, so we're under there rolling around, whatever, you know. Usually he never comes out, but he snuck out of my pocket that day, and you know, and I'm always putting my hand in my pocket, and it was getting close to the time to go out to the Derby, and I always reach in there and make sure he's with me, and he wasn't there. And I looked at everybody. I says, I ain't going on that goddamn track unless I find my dad. They all look at me. Logan knew what I was talking about. Everybody else like, what? I said, yeah, I'm telling you. So we went over there and we started looking around, and sure enough, there he laid. He was under Corey's car, you know. I made a running joke of it. I said, yeah, Dad, all these strip clubs and all these prostitutes out here. You want to hang out here? I get it.
Oh, I just looked at the chat and somebody asked, have you ever jumped through someone's windshield?
Oh, that's an old story. Well, you know, I got where it got a little boring around home, and so I started traveling a little bit. Just county fairs 2 hours away. You know, do a little homework. Didn't have Facebook, didn't have internet, didn't have that stuff. Just word here, hey, who's the best guy in this area? You know, I want to challenge myself. I still do every day. You know, I'm not afraid of competition. I love competition. I love to be against the best every day. There's never a day if somebody calls me out, I'm coming. You know, there's no way I'm going to back down from anybody in the sport. And so I found out about this Mike Klinger. Didn't know him from Adam. Never met him. Heard he was cleaning house down in Hamburg, Pennsylvania, down around Cabela's, down there, Charlottesville, Derby track. So I loaded up my car and away I went. And we ran down there, and I won that night, beat him. And beat him 2 or 3 times. And then I thought, my brainstorm was, I better build a new outlaw car. It was outlaw. It was full cage bumper to bumper. But so I called the promoter. I said, hey, I'm building this new car. What can I mean, I know it's outlaw. The only rule, they had no fan. And I'm like, okay. So I wanted to run cage bars all the way to rear bumper and off front and everything. Said, nope, all the cage had to stay in the cockpit area. Okay. So I get down there that night and I start running. And I found, you know, we didn't buy everything back then. We built everything. And I found this, looked like a double cardian in a drive shaft, but I found one in the steering shaft in a car I had here. And I pulled it out and I made a steering column out of it. That was the worst thing I ever did. That car, the body shifted just a little bit and it bound up, so I didn't have no steering. Well, Mike and his brother and one of his friends, they teed off on me. I mean, teed off on me. Well, Mike was hitting me kind of right on the edge of the driver's door multiple times. And down there, the officials didn't care. They just, hey, it's a Derby, whatever. They didn't. People want to see officiating at the worst. I mean, that's the place you want to see. But I got to the point where it was bending my cage bars into my ribs. So I said, you know what? The next time he comes in here, I'm coming out and I'm going in his car. And I did. When he hit that door, I come right across the hood and right down inside of his car. So yeah, that did happen, But you know, 3, 4, 5 years later, we brushed under the rug and we bullshit and shoot the shit and things happen.
You think that was? How many other great Derby friends do you have in the sport from stories like that?
That's the only time I ever did that. I mean, I've met a ton. I mean, a ton of awesome people, straight up awesome people. I mean, the community is just like you guys touched on it last night about raising money for all these charities and all this stuff and the things that we've done and everybody's done in the community. And I mean, is there buttholes and is there this and that? Yeah, everybody is. I am at times, you are at times, but at the end of the day, I think I call everybody my friend.
I get you. That makes sense. So let's see what other questions we got here. So what makes you love Demolition Derby?
That's a good question. I guess when it's in your blood, it's in your blood. I mean, everybody's driven different. I live, eat, sleep, and breathe it. It's people look at me and say you're nuts, you're crazy, or whatever. But like today, I took a fresh pair of Joker spindles because I was looking for a set of hubs and I can't find a set of hubs. I took a fresh pair of Joker spindles and I cut them up. I mean, I cut them right up. I just cut them up. I needed the hub and the back plate. That's all I needed. So I had a fresh pair of Jokers here and I whacked them off. An original set of Jokers, nevertheless. Yep. So Matt will be proud of me when he hears that.
I'm not even surprised that I want to say like why would you do that, but I'm not even surprised.
You know why? You know what I'm up to next.
Yeah, I think my podcasts are breaking the internet. That's gonna really break the internet when that thing comes out. So if you,
don't miss out, King of Ohio 2024. I'll be there.
So a few questions getting asked in the chat is about Blizzard Bash in 2014 when you ran with Songalewski and the two-man heat. Take us through that whole event. How did it get to a two-man, and how did the entire story?
I don't know if you want to hear the whole entire story because I got some bad things to say about some people, and I don't know if I really want to touch base onto it or whatever. But I mean, we go to Blizzard Bash. It was funny because we met up at the hotel in the morning or whatever, and I look at Jason's car and I look at Ryan's car, and I'm like, holy Jesus, they got cage bars all the way to the floor. Here I am with a simple 3x3 cage. I'm like, what in the hell am I getting myself into? I know the rest of the car is good because I know how to build the front. I know how to do this and I know how to do that. But I'm like, wow, these guys are really out there. And we talked about the builds. I mean, we were all on board with the builds, but I just didn't think I needed it. So we get to the show. Rick Clark's on our team, Jason, Ryan, me. We go through tech. Rick had a shifter. His shifter plate dropped all the way to the top of the trans tunnel. Now you can't have that. You got to move that up 3 inches. So Rick went back and did his cut and come back through. He moved it up 2 3/4 of an inch. They didn't give him nothing to load it. No question, no nothing. I mean, 2 3/4 inches. He moved it up that far. It was 1/4 inch. Well, I'm here to tell you, if that floor pan would have come up to that 2 3/4 inches, the front bumper would have been well above the carburetor. So that's where we lost Rick. Then we all had pretty good cut list. So we're out in the pits. We're all cutting, working. We all had aftermarket Pitman arm shafts. So we all had to try to find Pitman arms and change them and this and that. And so we get everything we think We got like 10 minutes to get back our asses back in the barn, or we're not running. Jason's just tidying up a couple little things on his car. Me and Ryan get in our cars. We take off to the barn. We roll in there. We get sticked. And we're waiting. We're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. We can't figure out what the hell. Where's Jason? Like, what's going on? Where is he? And I could hear him boring, ripping, and raring. And we kind of go over by the door and we look down the lane, and he's trying to come up the lane. But when they had to take, they couldn't find a Ford Pitman arm or a Chevy or whatever they needed at that time. And they took a different Pitman arm and changed the clocks into it so it fit it. But it wasn't like a normal one you could just slide up on. It was already clocked. You had to clock it yourself. Well, they clocked it wrong and they never checked it because we were all in a hurry. Well, he could only steer one way and he couldn't get the car hardly back to straight. Well, he's trying to get to the barn. Well, he was coming up the lane trying to get to the barn, and they closed the door on him.
Oh.
And that was the end of Jason. So that's why we ended up down to 2.
So going out into that heat, what was your mindset going into it?
Me and Ryan looked at each other and we just said, let's go have fun. Let's hold them to the floor and see what we can do.
So before that, have you ever met any of them guys in person?
Who?
Songaluski or any of them guys?
Oh, yeah. I ran with them in Spring Explosion, I think. Was that prior to Blizzard Bash?
I was like 9 years old then. Pete,
I
have
think
no idea.
I got the worst memory anybody you'll ever talk to. So when it comes to dates and names and stuff, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I could probably go back here and look at things and try to figure it out through trophies and stuff. But it was me, Eric Blum, Jason, and Ryan. Yeah, me, Eric Blum, Jason, and Ryan at Spring Explosion when we won that one. That was all in that same era. That was all that same year. So that would make sense because Blizzard Bash is usually in November. So, yeah, we ran Spring Explosion, in the spring, and then we ran that.
Yeah,
so
they said Spring X was first.
Yep.
So before Spring X, how did you meet Songaluski and them guys out there? Because you're on like the other side of the country.
I'm just trying to think how that all went down. I think I might have been buying parts for him a little bit, and Jason and I kind of talked a little, and he'd seen me run places, and he was the one that called me and asked if I'd be interested in being on their team. And I was like, me? Like, who am I to be? I mean, the year before was the first year I come onto the national platform running Metal Mayhem. That's where I really met Jason. Now, yeah, that's okay. So a little bit's coming back to mind. Jason showed up with them full built wheels, no rubber. And he needed somebody to weld a spacer on because his rear end was too short to put like regular tires back on. He wanted to tack weld some wheel centers onto his axle flange, and I had the welder and generator. And he asked me, and I said, yeah, bring it on over. And I think that's how we met, right? Well, he delivered a drive shaft from Brian to me is what happened. And then we talked a little bit, and then that happened, and then so on and so forth. And I've spent time out to Jason's house. I've spent time in Brian Nerat's shop for 2 weeks and stayed at Jason's house. And, there's just a lot of history there.
I get you. So, like, going out there at them national level shows, like, obviously you ran a lot of national shows like that. What do you think is your favorite when it comes to the national build and the national level shows? Like, what is your favorite show you've ran so far?
I really can't say I have a favorite. I mean, I like them all. I like the platform that's designed. I mean, I like the indoor for sure. I just have a shitty time in tech. That's the problem. Like, I just have a terrible time in tech no matter where I go. It don't matter if it's in the backwoods of nowhere to the highest level you can run. I just and I got I got 2 cars coming up for sale today. I got my King wagon that's coming up for sale, and I got my Oldsmobile that I had built for Dead Man's coming up for sale. I mean, people can buy them, wreck them, pull their stuff at them, and cut them apart every inch. I know somebody that done that once with one of my cars. And you will not find no cheat in them cars. They're legit, you know. And I take a lot of abuse in the tech line.
Why? So why do you think that is, Pete?
Well, I already said it. I push every rule to its utmost.
So here's why I think you have a lot of hard times in the inspection line, Pete. So like this is a rectangle. Do you agree this is a rectangle?
Yes.
So if I told you you can have a rectangle, how are you gonna like decipher that rule?
It's kind of hard. I mean, you're giving me something that's black and white, but not every promoter does that. They give us yeah. Well, today it ain't black and white. You look at Dead Man's purple and black. So you can't tell me, hey, it's in black and white. No, it's not. But there's just a lot of things out there that's just not totally explained.
Pete,
That's a rectangle. I'm going to agree to you. It's a rectangle. If you give me a size on the rectangle, give me a thickness on the rectangle. That's what we're going to stay with.
Pete,
will it look like a Ruffles Tater chip? Maybe.
Pete, I've talked to you for countless hours on the phone, and the way I thought you were going to answer that was, well, what's the dimensions on it? You don't give me a dimension.
Well, I figured that was all in the rules.
Pete, you're like talking to you like you're one of the only guys that actively, when you read a set of rules, like it's like you take them to like an AI like ChatGPT, and you pick out every single grammatical error, which that's just how your brain works, and like a lot of people's doesn't. That's just
right.
Why it is, and that's why you have a lot of problems,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things, and these now we're headed right down that rabbit hole. But with promoters, you write a set of rules, leave them alone. Leave them alone. Quit changing them. You guys, you're your worst enemy. Leave them alone. Let the drivers adapt to your rules. Bo Lockwood had it right. Get a hold of Bo. Talk to Bo. Maybe he can educate you a little.
Well, to get him
the
on
guy
the
built a set of rules. He didn't change them. He let and their motto was, let's bring our drivers in our area up to this level, and we'll help them get there. So when you called their TED Tech, if there was something that he knew that maybe I found in the rules that was a huge advantage, he'd tell the other guy. So he didn't get a big, surprise when he showed up there and caused a bunch of stink. I mean, was it the right thing to do? Probably not. But you know what? They didn't have a lot of trouble with drivers. And they had Mark Elliott there. They had Toby Hiley there. Now there's two unbelievable builder drivers, reputable. They had them in the tech line. When you have guys with that kind of caliber in your tech line, I mean, me as a higher caliber, I want that guy. I had probably one of my best experiences in a tech line 2 years ago with Toby Hiley. The guy is polite, nice. He don't get his feathers ruffled. He don't yell, holler, scream. And he understands the build. Like, he didn't get offended by anything on my car. He was like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It was all cool because he understood it. When you get these lower caliber tech guys, they see it and it's like a deer in the headlights, and their brain can't calculate, can't wrap around it, and then they start like chopping at you, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, get your rule book out, read it. Let's read this. Let's see what it exactly says. And a lot of them don't even want to hear it. They won't dig the rule book out and actually read it. Some will, some won't. But that makes a huge difference when you get somebody like a Mark Elliott or a Toby Hiley in your tech line, and that's the only, you don't talk to anybody else in that tech line. You only talk to one person. You don't need 6 or 7 other Indians coming and pecking in your ear. No, we talk to one guy, and that's all we deal with. And it just works so much smoother and so much easier.
So when it comes to inspections and inspection lines like that, what is your favorite type of rule set to go off of?
Well, for the last how many years I've been in the protector classes, the heavier build. Well, this year we said, we'll tone it back a little and we'll do the super stock, no trans brace, no DP, and we'll run that game out. And we did well. We had a great year. We actually broke less shit this year than we ever have. But I think because the build's a little lighter, the hits are lighter. Guys they don't have that confidence in going 70 miles an hour across the track and hitting somebody, because you're pressured in and all that. So maybe that's why we didn't break so much. Guys are a little more cautious on their way they drive. You look at Blizzard Bash, looks like a bunch of ladle heads out there. Everybody's wide open. I mean, tearing their own wheels off, running up the trunks of guys, just doing stuff. Normal derby, and you don't see that at the normal derby.
I get what you're saying. So going from rule set, what are your thoughts on which seems to be a very, very popular topic recently, is the whole sport coming together to be creating a unified rule set?
Well, I've talked to you about it. I've talked to Tim Clark about it. I talked to Frankie Guy. I talked to TJ. I talked to a bunch of them. And Tim, he yelled at me the other day because I said something about his rules, and he told me, well, you were supposed to write me a set. And I didn't, because I was Derbian. I love it. I think it'd be the best thing in the world. But the key to that is we need to, like everybody says, build a committee, association, something. Or what I was going to try to bring to the table, because I was kind of thinking I was going to slow up at Derby a little bit, but here I am thinking about going to Utah next year and going to the King. And so I was personally going to build a set of super stock rules, and I was going to present them to these promoters in the East Coast, Midwest, East Coast. So from, let's say Illinois back to Pennsylvania, any show that pays over $5,000, use these rules. I come with the rules. I am not the head tech, but I am there to oversee and make sure the tech is the same from every show that's over 5,000. I didn't want to get into the county fairs. I wanted to just stay in that more of the national side of the bigger shows and keep this rule set the same all the way across. And I feel if we'd done something like that, your county fairs promoters or whatever would probably use them rules, because now we got all these cars from Pennsylvania to Illinois that are all built the same. They're the cars we got to target. So I think that class would take off, and I think it would work. And the rules wouldn't change for the minimum of 5 years. That's the way I look at it. I didn't, no way to let the rules change at all for 5 years. I'd let the drivers come up to the rules. Whatever gray areas are found the first or second year, everybody's going to know about them. So by the third year, I think everybody be on the same playing field.
So I agree with a lot of what you just said. So what do you think is preventing that from happening? Like,
what's preventing the unified rules?
Yes.
Is nobody's like Mark Elliott stepped up and did the unified points. If you talk to him, ask him how much time, what he's got invested, his travel time, his this, that. We got to find somebody willing enough to commit. It's a commitment to be able to do this. I mean, I kind of got this idea from Casey Smith when he did the youth. He did all the tech at every show, and he kept it the same. So it was the same from here to here to here to here to here. You know, and that stuff has changed a little bit. I mean, you've got some promoters, they want to do their own little youth compact show or youth this show or whatever. And like I would say, like with Frankie Guy hold the nationals, youth nationals, the only way you could qualify for that, I feel, is if you ran a show that at that time Casey was involved in the text. So knowingly enough, it was the same. Everybody was the same. You know, keep that unified across the board. That's how you could qualify for it. But, you know, Casey, he's got bigger fish to fry now. He got it up and going. He did a lot for it. He did a ton for it.
Oh,
and
100% agree.
You know, he's stepping away from it. I mean, family and other things come first, and I don't blame the man. He needs a break.
So a good comment just came up. What are you considering a super stock car? A super stock car, I mean.
A super stock car to me would be. I don't think we need trans braces. Everybody else does, but if it's one of them things, if we're gonna run a trans brace, we'll run a trans brace. No distributor protector. I'd like to see a mid plate, a front plate, and like an oil pan guard. Nothing on the cradle above the oil pan bolts. The bolts that hold the oil pan in or the bottom of the starter. So you can connect your front plate and your mid plate at the bottom, but no 1-inch bars back. None of that, you know, like more of a half halo type thing to protect the carburetor, keep the hood off the carburetor. 5 on, 5 off on the doors, 5 on, 5 off on the trunks. Basically what you're seeing on the super stocks today. Stock spindles, aftermarket ball joints, aftermarket tire head ends. I think hydro steer should be allowed. I don't believe the ram in the super stock should be allowed, but I'm okay with the factory box in the hydro setup. Running factory steering components, factory center link. That's kind of my idea of, 2 down legs, gas tank protector tight. That's kind of my idea of a super stock.
So kind of like a mix of like a dead man super stock and then like a bash or a smash it pro stock, basically.
Right. Yep. Super pro stock, whatever. Pro stock to me is full protectors. You know, still keep everything 5 on, 5 off type thing, you know, but if you run a trans brace, yeah, you can start pressuring, but then everybody can pressure. You know, after you buy, a dozen transmissions, everybody, we went away from it. Now we're going back to it after everybody's breaking transmissions. Well, everybody knows why the transmissions are breaking. They might not know, but I know. Because as soon as you put a lower cradle in a car, your motor mounts no longer, you can put rubber mounts in the bottom, even factory GMs. The ears on the cradle don't move. So it don't allow the motor, as the front end comes up and shoves back in, it don't allow the motor to go to head. So like years ago when we run Chevy Cups, factory Chevy Cups, they were junk. Mopar motor mounts. Everything was junk at the end of the night because the motor tried to leave the car. Well, when you get it pushing back in, you're going to break a bell housing all the time. And 03s are the worst because of the way they flex. So you go out, all this super stock did for guys like me that wanted to compete, or the higher end guys, they went out and bought a Reed transmission. Without a brace, they're a hell of a lot stronger. You buy a Narrowed aluminum bell and Narrowed aluminum tail. I mean, that's what I ran at No Mercy. And me and Bill Miller hit head to head. I mean, I didn't break no transmission, and I had it tied down pretty good. So if you got an extra $5,000 in your pocket, or you can go out and spend $400 for a trans brace, $300 for a bell, and $300 for a tail, you're a little bit cheaper, and you ain't got a $2,000 case involved.
I get what you're saying. So going back a little bit to what you were saying about your version of Pro Stock compared to Ohio's version of Pro Stock, what do you think why do you think every class has a different name in every location? Like Ohio's Bash Pro Stock is what Dead Man's Super Stock is. Why do you think that is?
Well, we were limited weld for years. Where'd that go?
Well, in my eyes, limited weld is a full cradle, just a full cradle type of super stock car. But then you go somewhere else, limited weld is basically kicker cars.
And I've seen limited weld with no full cradle, no it's just, no matter where you go. I think it's just the area. I believe it's different areas. I've seen it just keeps changing. When we went away from the heavy kicker cars at Bash and, the turn back to clock classes, that's when all these super stock and pro stock come evolved. They tried to rename classes, and I think the reason why they tried to rename them and put that word stock in there is to give guys maybe that false sense of security that, the stock word entertains some people, like, oh, stock, let me look at this. So you're getting people looking at it, you know what I mean? And I think that's where they come up with that. There ain't nothing stock about any of these cars.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So, well, I completely lost my last question. So let's see here. Let's read the comments here. And good. Let's look at the questions here. Let's see. Oh, that's what the question was. So why do you think, like Bash kicker cars and all that used to be the thing? Everybody used to have a big full cradle and everything. Why do you think the sport moved away from that?
Me personally, I think the guys that kept it alive, the older generation, me, older people that retired and walked away from it. I mean, people are going to I'm going to get a lot of middle fingers and stuff out of this comment, but I feel the younger generation don't have the competitive, you do. I'll give you that, you do. But there's a lot of them that don't have that competitive drive. That's why we got 300 different classes at every show.
Do you think
that's why I think the kicker cars went away. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, it's a ton of work. And everybody knows what them cars were. Everybody knows what a turn back to clock car was. If you were in the top 10 in either one of them classes, them cars were not legit. So there's a lot of time in them cars. And I just feel, and the economy might have a lot to do with it. Mom and dad don't have the extra money because it costs this much more to buy the groceries for the kids, or this much more for this, or the vehicle used to be $20,000, now it's $40,000 we got to buy, and they're working extra overtime and they just ain't got the time. That could be the problem. Who knows?
I get you. I think your president definitely did have an effect on it.
Yeah. My president?
uh, so
I actually think you voted for him. So
joke's on you. I can't even vote yet.
your mom and dad did.
Yeah, well, Big Freebie, he does love him some Joe Biden. You know, he came home and one day he's like, I love Joe Biden. I was like, yeah, get out of the house.
I'd have locked him out of the shop for a year. You freeze up, I freeze up, somebody freeze up. I think I'm still alive. I don't know.
Okay.
There you are.
I don't know if the internet just went out or what just happened. So I don't know if you heard the last question, but I'll rephrase it because I think it cut out just when I said it. So do you think having all them different types of classes and all that different stuff that they say tries to get you in where you fit in, do you think that helps or hinders the sport?
I think it hurts it. The reason why I think it hurts it is too many classes is not a good thing. It just, yeah, people like a variety. I mean, that's life, you know. Like as a kid growing up, you walked into the store and they had penny candy. There was hundreds of different varieties. But what we're doing in the motorsport world, you know, we need to back her down a little. I think Jason Sauer's class is a great entry level class. I think the youth class is a great class. You know, them youth kids can't come up in our class until they get to an age. So we need to have that class. Okay. Them kids don't have nowhere else really to go. Now we're trying to divide that class, and I don't believe that. I don't believe in that dividing that class. I think there should be a compact. And in the compact side, I think it should be super, super entry level, factory bumpers, blah, blah. The big car should be like you ran. That's your next level in that class. So start out, and that really, you know, so the kids ain't, all us dads are guilty. My kid's going to have a red line in his youth car, in her youth car. You know, Cam Penwell's going to have, you had, I mean, it's our fault as dads. But in the compact side, okay, love you, kid. I think there's no reason to divide the 8-cylinder side. Because when I stepped into the sport at 16, I got thrown in with the Sharks. Guys have been doing it 20 and 30 years. You know, I didn't get a lollipop and say, here's an enjoyable ride. No, I mean, I got hit at 40. You know, it's not so that's why I think you need to leave them two classes like they are. Lessen up your compact class for entry levels. V8s are what they are. If you want to move up to V8, you move up. If not, stay in that lower class. Then adults, Jason Sowers, kind of gut and goes. I think that's great for the people that want to try it or don't have a lot of money and want to go smash and just have fun. At that point, I think we need 2 more classes. We need a class in between what I would call a pro stock, more like a motor swap. Motor swap, bumpers. I don't think we should give any fix-it plates. These fix-it plates are out of control. I mean, a lot of guys like fix-it plates, but I'm personally not a fan of fix-it plates. I don't. Throw the fix-it plates away and watch what happens. Everybody will want the protectors back because they can't plate the frame all up. They're the classes. Now we got Blizzard Bash, we got these heavy builds, these heavy classes, but I think that's where they should stay, like King of Ohio, Blizzard Bash, Gold Rush teams. Them cars need to be heavy for what they put them through.
I agree with you. So So the way I'm kind of seeing what you're saying, and the way I truly, if let's say in the magical world where everybody says let's come together, I think there should be there's the youth compacts, like you said. You have one entry level youth compact class, and then you have the SMW style youth full size. But then I think for when it comes to adult compacts and adult full size, you have your pro stock, which is your heavier style build.
Yeah.
You have your super stock, which is basically your mid style build, and then you have your beginner style build in a way, like the 80s bone stock class or like the bumper swap class. Or
No, I don't even think it should be that. I think it should be what Jason's doing. I think it should be that. Leave the windshield in if you want. Do whatever you want. Just basic $500-$600 ride. By the time you whatever, it ain't gonna break the bank. You're not gonna miss your mortgage payment if you don't have the money. And it's always the same. Stay in the lane you belong in. I stay in the upper lane because I don't feel I've been forced. Literally, if I want a derby, I've been forced to drop back down. I didn't choose it. I was forced by the promoters for detuning their rules. And I don't like to be forced. I think there's a class for guys like me, and there's a class for the mid-level. So we're going to have a $500-$600 car class. We're going to have a class that's probably realistically $15,000, $20,000, 15, 10, 15, somewhere in that range class, which is more the pro stockish or the super stocks. And then the pro stocks is where we are, what we're running. And then you got your Blizzard Bash style builds. And then Blizzard Bash, like the King, how many classes is there of them? I mean, you got a King car. Tell me, where could you run that?
Well, so my King car is looking beautiful sitting in a truck box in the cold right now, covered up with a tarp so the wind doesn't get to it, because there's nowhere to run them cars. And the few places the King build is a really weird build. It's in between. It's in between because it's not a full-on kicker car, but that's all you can really run it against. But it's not like just a regular like a smash it full style build. It's that weird in between that kind of just it's stuck. It sticks itself in a weird situation. You know what I mean?
It's weird because that class, the rear quarter panels and trunk are less than a Bash for Cash pro stock, and there's less fix-it plates, but we got a full cradle trans brace and tight to the tight to the dash bar, but we have no ski springs. We have aftermarket spindles. We're allowed any kind of steering. Yeah, it's really a weird mix of rules that if you go to a Runway Your Brung show, you're way underbuilt. You try to go anywhere else, you're either underbuilt or you're overbuilt.
Like you've had your wagon for what, 2 years, and how many times have you ran it?
3 times. I ran it 3 times. One was just an exhibition run for no money. And today we tore the car apart. Straight as an arrow, front to back. Killed me.
That is the one thing that I do not like about that show is that you have these cars and there's not really anywhere to go with them.
My question is it that show? Or is it all the other shows that are all so diverse? Because I can't take my Iron City super stock or pro stock or whatever you want to call it and go to Bash with it. You know what I mean? I can't. Nobody's the same. You look at TJ shows, same way. It's just nobody's the same. I got my 03 that I ran at TJ show. I ran that at a couple places. But it's just sitting up there because don't fit a lot of rules. Now you take the car I've been running from Iron City. I was able to run that. I was able to slide a set of kickers in it, run it at Frankie Guy's show, run a couple county fairs, I was able to run that car. And why couldn't we just run that car everywhere? Or why couldn't I believe the King, with the format, it's more like a team show. So them cars definitely should be a heavier car. So with that being said, that show, Blizzard Bash, Gold Rush teams, all them should be that heavy build. And there should be some promoters out there that would pick them classes up, because there'd be a lot of them cars out there. I mean, Iron City did it, and how many cars did they have?
Oh,
what was out there?
It was basically they had more cars in that class than they had in their main class.
25, 28 cars showed up for that class. So that was a no-brainer. So the promoters are all on this team kick because it's entertainment. Guys are running wide open, smashing shit. There's no laying down. It's very exciting to watch. How long is it going to last? I don't know. Because you see teams falling apart all the time and new ones being generated. My problem is with the team show is it's a big commitment. You can't just say, yeah, it's raining, it's shitty, it's cold. I don't really want to go. I'm staying home today. You don't get them choices. When you commit, you commit. And you got to have the right people. That's the biggest thing. I've been on team shows, team events. You have to have the right people, to really make it a good time and have fun at what you're doing.
So what do you think? What are a few things that goes into having like a great team?
I think what makes a real good team, to me, is prior to the team being friends. I think helps a ton. You already know each other. Everybody knows each other. There's no surprises. I know you, you know me. We know how we operate. We know how we work. If I say something, you don't get offended. You say something, I don't get offended. I've had that problem on teams. Our Vegas team was great. Super. Everything was great about it all the way through. I wish my one teammate, Brett Rallier, had more time, but he was kind of the 2 weeks before the show. Hey, can you come do this? And he took on a build that's, a month easy to build the right car. But we did it. That's all that matters. We did it. I didn't do it. We did it. The whole team. Because without them guys, I couldn't have done what I done. Or I had everybody makes it. You can't just take and say, hey, I did it. Absolutely not. It was all of us. Casey was a huge, part of that, making sure we had everything we needed. It took, we were able to build cars. He took care of all the stuff that I don't want to be bothered with.
I can completely agree with that. Like this year, like when I was on with Team Revved Up, which was Steven Sickles, Jonathan Heilman, and Mark Metz this year, that team, like it was just from the beginning to the end of it, I could just tell like we got something good here. And it was just the amount of planning that them guys had was unremarkable. Like,
right.
Like when they first announced the show and they said I'm on the team, basically, I drove down there on a weekend and we all had dinner at Applebee's and had a game night. And like, I couldn't believe it, and by the end of it, like when I went home, I was like, we're doing this. And like, even the amount of preparation that goes into a good team, like one thing that I see that I don't think anybody talks about is like the food. This year, we had a group chat for the guys, which was me, John, Mark, and Steven. But then we had the women had a group chat too with my mom, Kristen, Mel, Val. And when everybody in the entire situation is coming together to make sure this is going to work, it's beautiful. It's a great team atmosphere, and I think that's when you as a team perform the best.
Takes everybody.
Oh, it's even when I went out there to Gold Rush this year, I was hanging out with Team Kansas. Them guys are on it was insane. They had a chef. I'm talking a full-on chef. They had a shrimp boil at a derby. What?
Yeah.
I never even heard of that.
Oh, come on. We had a shrimp boil at No Mercy.
Well, we were trying to win that derby, Pete. I was busy. I was twisting non-wire, getting it in. Blasting.
But yeah, I get it. It takes a select, good group of people to make a solid team. And I think that's why Team Kansas does so well. I really do. They got a group of guys. Every time I watch Team Kansas, I know Brent Clemens. I don't know his brother as much, but I know Brent. And I know Chad very well. And Chicken, I met him once or twice, but, everywhere you see Chad, you see Chicken. You know what I mean? They're like connected at the hip, it seems like, every time.
Yeah.
And it hasn't changed. This year it had to change because something went on, with Brett Clemens' brother had a family, that had, you got kids, you got to take priority sometimes. But I think that's what makes that team so strong. Oh, they've been together long enough. They work well together.
And it's even off the track, going back into the pits. You have the Clemens, they're on one side of the pit, they're working together, getting their stuff done, and then you have Chad in his corner, and then you have Chicken in his corner. And it's the amount of teamwork and just overall communication that goes into them guys was I've never seen it before.
Yeah. It's the key. I mean, Casey had it right. Casey said, this is what it's going to take to win this Derby. You do what you do. And he told all the drivers, you do what you guys do. I'm doing what I need to do. And it worked.
Even at I was at South Carolina this year with you guys, before everybody went back to the hotel, literally had a pep talk with everybody. Then you went back, everybody's like, we're winning this. We got this. Woo! And then everybody went back to the hotel and hit it as hard in the morning, which the workout from you guys.
I was in my trailer before anybody even got there.
So going off of that, I saw a comment a little bit ago that I wanted to point out was, what is your thoughts on weight classes like the 6,000 pound class and the 8,000 pound class?
I think it's good, and I think it could be bad. I mean, we know there's all different metals. So guy starts lightening up on material in the cage to get it where he needs it. I don't know. Shit start going awry, will stuff start breaking, and, will somebody get hurt, or, because everybody's going to try to support the frame more than anything. I mean, that's just natural what we're going to do. Boy, it'd be great. You wouldn't need no inspectors anymore. The promoters could not pay anybody. All they need is a lady with a scale certificate and a scale there, and you just drive it on. She prints your ticket, gives you your stick, or says, go cut some off.
Which they had that class at the Summit Indoor Show this year, which was the first show I've ever seen it at. And that's exactly how it was. They had little scales you stick underneath the tires, or drive-on scales. I don't remember exactly what they were. And literally, it was the fastest. It was like a walk-around, basically, because that's all it really is.
Check for safety. And, I mean, that's all you got to do is check for safety and roll them on, roll them off.
And one of the things that I realized, somebody asked a question, what was your bash car for weight into comparison, was 6,000 pounds is not a lot of weight for a derby car.
My car, I've been running both of my cars, my '03 and my 97 Lincoln. Both of them cars would have fit in that class. And I could have added some.
Like, we were talking about this the one day. Like, what is the curb weight of like a Chevy wagon for that? Because wasn't it something stupidly high?
No, I think it was only realistically, if you look it up, you look at curb weight for a 1976 Chevy wagon, 9-passenger. I don't think it was 5,000 pounds. Not unless it had a big block in it, and but I think it's like 48 or 4,900 pounds.
Let's see. It weighs over 5,000 pounds.
It is over 5, depending on what way it came.
Well, true.
If it was a 350 car, or if it was a 10-bolt car, a 12-bolt car, it was a 7-passenger, 9-passenger. Was it a tow package, a non-tow package?
It says here, which that's not which a Chevy Caprice weighs approximately 4,300 pounds, which like that's close to the limit. And you know just as well as I do, when you start adding all them aftermarket parts in there, it's fast that weight comes.
Oh yeah. I mean, that 6,000 pound class had a Chevy wagon in it.
Wait, hold on. So Jared Blades just said a Chevy wagon is, well, Mad Mike says a Chevy wagon is about 4,900 pounds. Jared Blades says it's 4,900 pounds.
That's what I thought, 4,900.
But a Caddy weighs 5,300 pounds.
Right.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Makes sense. You should ever grab a hold of a Cadillac hood?
Dude, I remember I feel bad for whoever's around me when we have to lift them things up. Whew, sucks to be me.
So you take a Chevy wagon. Just say it weighs 5,000 pounds.
Yeah, that's what Mad Mike just said it is. It's over that.
Just say 49 to 5,000, whatever. Just a rounder. We'll round it at 5,000 and say, all we can add is 1,000 pounds to it.
That's how much do you think a pointy bumper weighs?
I mean, they're a couple hundred pounds. Braced rear end's another couple hundred pounds.
Cage,
depending on where you go with it,
So I wonder what now that
you look at an air-out drive shaft versus a regular drive shaft. I mean, look at the tires. How about the tires?
Let's see.
And like I'm saying, that 6,000 pound class had a GM wagon. Junebug ran it, I think, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that had a 6,000 pound class, a wagon in it. I said to myself, he must be really light on the cage material, all 2x2, like must have kept it really, really trimmed down.
So a Ford, so I just Googled this. The curb weight of a Ford is about 4,000 pounds.
Yep. So you can add 2,000 pounds to a Ford.
And then a W body is 800 pounds. Interesting. Let's see what else. There was another one. There was another one in here that I liked. The comment was oh yeah. So Kyle Baker asked if you ran one show and you were only allowed if you were running a car and you were only allowed one aftermarket part, what would it be?
One aftermarket part.
You could only swipe the credit card one time.
Right. I would have to say a rear end.
Which, I mean, I could see. I was thinking either rear end or slider shaft.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. Can't build a car. I mean, I've seen, yeah, but I ran without a slider for a long time. And I didn't have much trouble.
Which,
I broke a lot of axles though.
so we'll transfer this into like setup. So what rear end do you run?
For the longest time, I mean, everything I got is postal. I do have a Roy Turner now. I think I'm going to get a hold of the boys at Impact Derby Parts, and I'm going to start going maybe with, I like their design of their rear ends. They're a nice piece. Looks like some quality. I'm going to touch base with them here in the next month or so, and I'm probably going to get a rear end from them guys.
Fun. And then what exactly is your motor? Because we've said the amount of people that says when it comes to putting power in a derby car, you're one of the only ones that can put it on the ground. What motor do you run exactly, and what trans exactly?
Well, all my motors are different. I don't have one that's identical. I got a 256 cylinder. I got a 306 cylinder. And I got a 225 slant six. That's the key to it.
The slant
I just
six,
got
huh?
I got a big amplifier with a big speaker that makes V8 sounds. No, we got a big horse that's a 421. I've only ran it in one car, and that was in the wagon. We got my 383 that I've had that Brent built me in 2013. We're just taking the cradle off her right now, and it'll be going back for the first time since 2013 to just, there's nothing wrong with it. Runs fine, runs great. But I just feel before something major happens, it definitely needs a freshening up. And then I got my new little 355 that we've been running. So I got a wide spectrum of power, torque, curves, gear ratios, and RPMs. I mean, I got stuff that does 93, 94 down to about 87.
So what do you think the most important part of having all that power is? How do you reason spending all the money to have all the extra power?
I like it for the speed aspect. You get in a fist fight, the guy that's faster is usually the guy that's going to win. You get in a drag race, the guy that's faster is going to win. You get in a NASCAR race, the guy that's faster is going to win. You know, I usually can get to point A and point B faster than the rest of my competition. So that's what I like about it. I can get somebody's wheel quicker than they can get mine because I'm faster. You know, I can get out of the way before they get there. They can't. And I can punch you a lot harder at a short distance and do more damage.
One of the comments that just came in a little bit ago was, so do you think the quality of the driver is truly affected by the amount of horsepower you have?
It helps. I can't say it don't help. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can go out there with 250 horsepower and still win derbies, but it's not as fun. You know, I feel it helps. I can't say it don't help, but it can hurt too. Because if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have all your shit right, and you know all the great guys on your team, like my transmission guy, Bill Hildebrandt, that dude, to be able to take what I put transmissions through is crazy. I mean, and I've had other transmissions. I ruin them right here in the yard. I don't even get them to the derby track. So that's something to say. And same way with the motors. I mean, for me to turn them like I turn them and beat them like I beat them, they just don't. They don't. I've never lost a derby because of a motor, ever. Since I've been running red lines, I've never had a motor let me down, ever. So that has a lot. That says a lot for them guys. Is it going to make me a better driver? Well, yeah, because I ain't got to worry about that stuff. I ain't got to worry about my drivetrain. My drivetrain's solid. It's going to take it. I did a break an axle for the first time this year, 40 spline. Never broke one a day in my life, but that's some of the downfalls of big horsepower.
What do you think is too much horsepower in a derby car?
Well, here's the thing. I look at it as if I watch a guy go out there and he's got this big horsepower, and I mean, I don't think you've ever seen. I lost a radio hose at No Mercy, but prior to that, I don't think you've ever seen any of my motors spit water. So these guys that are putting this big horsepower down, they don't know what they're doing inside the engine or whatever, and they're creating a ton of heat, and they're spitting out water all over within the first 15 minutes of the derby. Well, that's too much. Or they don't know. I mean, it could be amongst a lot of things, but just too much. I don't think any of my motors are pushing more than mid sixes. I don't think they're in the sevens. I mean, maybe they're not even that. Maybe they're only in the fives. None of them's ever been really dynoed. I mean, they run good.
So, a question I just saw here, which you don't have to give a direct number, but somebody asked, if you were to sell everything derby related that you have right now, how much do you think you have invested in it all?
What I have invested or what I could resell it for? I mean, what I have invested, I don't know. I look on the shelves. There's 8 or 9 bell housings. There's 6 or 7 of this. There's 8 of that. You go out in my one building out here. There's I'd lie if I told you, but 50 sets of derby wheels, and tires made, and it's just cars. The amount of cars I got, I mean, it's well over 200,000.
He's the guy that asked the question. His guess was about 200,000.
Yeah, it's over that. The enclosed trailers, I mean, it just, I don't know. I just work my ass off. That's all. Try to make some extra money. I mean, the kids don't go without. I don't go without. The wife don't go without. We have a great life, and her money's her money. My money's my money, and I do what I want to do, and she does what she sings and does these things, and I derby and do my thing, and I do some fishing, But I live a pretty good life, and I made it pretty much my life is I made it myself. I had nothing given to me. No inheritance of any sort. I mean, what I come from nothing. My grandparents lived in an old house trailer. Yes. Just work hard and push yourself. Work 7 days a week. Saturday's another day. Sunday's another day. It's just another day to go to work.
So what does Melanie think of all of this?
She don't say much. She supports me. I support her in her singing. She supports me. She hardly ever gives me a hard time. I'm up in the shop till 1, 2 in the morning sometimes, and I don't see her much. She once in a great moon she'll pop in and say hi, and back out the door she goes. And she'll bring me up dinner once in a while or whatever. But yeah, when it comes build time, I just focus and keep my head on one track, and I guess that's why our cars are maybe above the rest. Everybody thinks they're above the rest, but I've tech cars, and I really don't think they are. We're just a little cleaner. We're a little neater. We're a little, things are a little You look at like Gage Sumner's rear quarter panels, you won't find a cleaner set anywhere after they're creased. I mean, the man takes his time and really puts some time into them. Is there benefits to it? I don't know. They're going to get whacked and folded over anyways.
Yeah, that is one of the things when I'm doing quarter panels and I'm like on the third day of the first side, I'm just like, why am I doing this? It makes no difference. Just because this line looks like a sheet of paper, it makes no difference. Why am I doing this?
I'm horrible. You get that line in there and you get it all where you want it. Then I'll take a straight edge and lay up against the bottom of it. Start tapping and trying to get it. It's like, what are you doing? It ain't gonna do no. Gonna get hit and it's all gone to hell anyways.
It's stupid, is what it is. I mean, the only part that really somewhat stays together is the top of the pillars, and even that doesn't stay together most of the time.
No. That car I've been running, I've had to patch that poor girl. I couldn't tell you how many times. Everything's ripped and shredded, and it's horrible.
So, let's see. So
I was going to say something before, but I don't remember what it was. But go ahead.
So today I posted a thing that kind of went pretty much viral. Is I shared two pictures of your cars, one from this year and one from the year was 2009 when you posted it. I asked the caption of the post was, "Do you think derbying is better now or in 2009?"
2009, because nobody knew me.
I can't even say 2009 because I was 3.
No, I can't say. I like it better now. I really do. I think more's coming to the table. Money's bigger. Things are better. What's worse is these promoters. I mean, you gotta hire credible people in your tech lines. That's where they all are. There ain't a one of them out there that I've ran for in the last 4 or 5 years. Besides Dustin, he had Toby, but he lost him. So I don't know what I'm in for going this year. You know what I mean? I mean, the guy he's got in the line, he builds these cars. So I think he's not going to be surprised. I think he's going to, yep, okay, it's that shock that these guys get. They
got that county fair mentality, huh?
I don't think it's that. I think it's an old school mentality. I really do. I think they're stuck in the times of, or this is what they want to see. This is what they're expecting to see, but not realizing this is coming up 2024, boys. We're not 1997 anymore. And I deal with that all the time. Chris Furster was really good this year, I think. He's kind of an in-between kind of builder. He's built real hard. He's built real soft, especially with his boy through the youth series with Rick. He's a very diverse type of guy. And he can look at things, say, does that make a difference or doesn't it make a difference? Does this help or does, he can kind of swing around. And it's like, do I think all his calls are right calls? Sometimes I think he's a little too lenient, and sometimes he's a little stricter than he needs to be. He was solid though. I felt some drivers had issues. I really didn't. I was asked one thing I did argue and fight with him about is, we're running full protector cars, and I show up with 2 5/8 bolts through the package tray and a gas tank protector, and they want me to take them out. I said, that's like industry standard at this level. And I told him I wasn't cutting them. I said, you want them cut, you cut them yourself, because I was kind of aggravated about it. And you know what? He got his torches out, head tech, and cut my bolts. Oh, well, I went there and I didn't bring torches. That was why. I used Penwell's torches to cut a few things earlier, and they didn't find them until the second trip around. But now I just wish promoters would. I mean, I wasn't at Gold Rush, but I guess they had different promoters, techs in the line for like the Wheelman Nationals and cars and stuff. So you had somebody there from your area. But I just see it's a hard position to fill because there's the guys there is a lot of us out there, us older guys like me and that are out there that are credible builders, but I think they've been out of the circuit long enough that people forgot about them. You know what I mean? I think they forgot about them. Maybe reach out to them guys and say, hey, you know, you look at Billy Penwell. If Billy ain't running much, huh?
He's older than dirt.
And I think he's seen just about it all, and he's still involved yet to today. You know, can we look across the country and find some of these guys that really, they're the guys I think we should have in the tech line?
I agree with that. I mean,
sorry, Billy, you'll probably get 300 phone calls.
dude, I talk to them guys. I talk to Billy and Tony and all of them at least 3 times a week. I'll probably call up Billy tomorrow and be like, "Hey, why are you calling me old?"
They're good people, man. They are good people.
You know,
there's a lot of good people.
I think one thing I've learned in this sport is like in order to truly become great friends with somebody, you have to hate them at one point.
Oh yeah.
Like I hated the Penwells for like at least a good half a year before me and them actually became friends, you know. But now we're the best friends basically.
Yeah.
You know,
I've been on them roller coaster rides.
It's
hate and love.
It's truly crazy how it all works out.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my pet peeve, I think, right now in the Derby world. I love the Derby. I want a Derby. I want to go to Blizzard Bash. I want to go to Gold Rush. I want to go to these places, but God, I ran for them promoters and I just felt like I didn't get a fair shake. And that's why I don't go back. You know, get it fixed and I'll come back. And probably another 50 drivers that don't run no more might come back. You know, they're all guilty of it. I can't put one on the top of the list. They're all guilty of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, that's why we're having promoters on the show.
You know? Yeah.
So
yeah, call me up. Say, hey, you know, if you're a promoter and you want me to come run your show, call me up. Talk to me. See, you know, if I'm not doing nothing, maybe I'll come tech for you. You know, I'd love to help the sport. I'll promise you I ain't going to get no shock when I see a build. Something's gotta change. You know, I work for Tim. I've helped Frankie. I've helped people. I've done things. It sucks. If they ain't got a lift, man, your ass is chafed at the end of the day. The dirt, the sweat, it's horrible. It's a lot of work for a little bit of nothing. You know, but you love the sport so much you're willing to help.
I get you. Melanie asked, why is there a Derby car in your basement?
Ask her.
She just commented that on the live.
I want to know why there's music equipment in my basement.
He makes a fair point. Anyways, so going into the next hot topic question. So the hot topic recently has been derbying and what it can be, and everybody seems to think can become like NASCAR. Do you ever see derbying becoming like NASCAR in any way?
I don't believe. I think it could, but in our sport, absolutely not, because we got such a divide with our drivers. It's just like our country right now. The blue collar now used to be Democrat, now Republican. We go to work and make money. We're worried about our family and supporting our family. We can't take off and go protest, and we can't do that. I believe this sport is built with blue collared workers, and who's going to pay? What I can't wrap my head around, who's going to start it, and whatever you start or however you start it, it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort. There's got to be money somewhere. And who's out there willing to work for nothing today that's got families at home and da 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 da? I just don't feel that we can find that center line of people that'll make it happen. I mean, I'm willing to try it. What I think we could do is I think we can find a promoter that's got a lot of connections maybe into the sponsor world or into this, or knows somebody or knows this or knows that, and can gather 40, 35, 40 drivers out of a couple 100,000 that's out there, maybe more. I don't even know. I couldn't fathom how many derby drivers are out there in this country. And start an entertainment, kind of like NASCAR. There's only so many. And start that off of like a series with these 35 or 40 guys, but I think you need to find the right people. You got to follow behind a NASCAR race or follow behind you're going to, just like bands always have, somebody before them, before the big name. We're just entertainment. That's all we're going to be, but it'll come to a different level of entertainment because now we're getting on the big stage. So we'll pick up big name sponsors. We'll pick up this, we'll pick up that, but it's only going to affect 40, 50 drivers in the country. That's the way I feel it's going to end up.
I can see that. So, let's see here. So, going off of that, so in 10 years, where do you see the sport of demolition derby at?
I believe it's a dying sport. The reason why I think it's a dying sport, I look at my kids every day. Everybody probably looks at their kids every day. What we're doing right now, I think, is killing the sport. I should be working on a car, not talking on the phone. The kids don't go out and play in the yard anymore. They sit in the house and shoved into the electronics. I didn't have any of that. So what I went out wherever Dad was changing the brakes on his truck or his car. He was working on a derby car. That's where I was. I was learning. Kids don't do that today. That's why I think we'll have a handful of the youths coming up through because the fathers, I talked to quite a few different fathers in the youth program, and half of their kids don't even come to the garage. I'm going to tell you right now, this dad is not going to be that guy. My kid's going to be here for every nut and bolt and everything that's turned, or she ain't going to be running. She wants to run, but she's going to be here for it all. because I'm old school. I'm not. You're going to know what makes that car tick and work.
I get you. That's exactly how I was raised. Like I remember It's Saturday. I'm tired. I don't want to work on derby cars. I want to watch cartoons. I'm 10. But that I I remember being terrified when I'd be up in my room just like sleeping or doing something a 10-year-old kid would do at 9 in the morning. And when I heard that door open downstairs, I was terrified because I just started getting ready because I'm going to get dragged out by my ear out into the garage, and that's kind of basically where it all started. And at the time I was like, "Dad, why are you doing this to me? It's just let me be a kid." But I honestly, I couldn't be more thankful that he used to do that to me.
Same here. My dad used to whoop my butt and drag me out of bed every morning. I didn't get to sleep in. We had a dairy farm. 4 o'clock, I was coming. That's why my ears are so big. And if I didn't listen, he'd pull on them all the time.
Like the amount of arguments that me and my dad have gotten into. And his exact words is, "I will not build this car if you're not. I will stay in here if you are." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I want a derby, so." I mean, which I don't know. It's as stupid as it sounds. I'm thankful that has happened so much,
But what is there, a handful of you kids?
I'm an only child.
No, I'm not talking. Kids like you.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That want to build and want a derby, and you know what I mean? It's rare. I mean, years ago, every kid at a certain age is like, "Man, my dad's buddy's wrecking a car. Well, I'm going to try it. I'm 16. Let's go get a beater for $50 or free. Knock the windows out and go have fun. Find somebody to flat tow it to the fair, just on a chain, and go have fun." You can't do that today.
Oh, not at all.
You can't do that today. It's a different world. So I used to ride around, and every fourth or fifth house would have a derby car in the driveway a week before the fair. It's not. But I mean, look at what promoters are paying now. Look at the money that's coming out. So I don't think the sport's going to survive the error. You know what I mean? We have it's a battle that I don't think we're going to win if we want to keep the sport alive. I just think it's going to be one of them things that's going to turn into kind of what I said, a small group of drivers just entertaining on a higher level.
Which, I mean, as bad as this is to say, wouldn't that, like, in a way, be a way in the positive direction? Because we're going to have to adapt to it sooner or later. Because
I don't know. Would it be in a positive direction if you weren't involved?
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would think that, but
I don't know if it's positive or not. If you weren't involved in the movement and you get left behind and you can't derby no more, what are you going to do?
I don't know.
It sucked.
Like, might pull a clutch models and start popping kids out in high school. I don't know.
We're just hoping you don't see that thing, that little furry pie between her legs, because that'll ruin you.
Oh.
Now I got to give a lot of, I mean, just what I've learned, the people I've met, what I've learned from people. I mean, I call it my support group. If it wasn't for my engine builder and my transmission builder and guys like Brian Narat and Jason Brodzinski, man, I'd be struggling, because they take all the work out of it for me. I mean, I gotta put it together. There's no doubt. Geez, when you get a part that's damn near flawless. It does make you look better than maybe you really are. You know?
I get what you're saying. Like the thing about you is I truly believe that you will never like go away from derbying. It's just because you're all you think about is derbying.
You're
like
right.
I call you like I don't talk to you for a month. I call you randomly when you're over there fishing, and all you're telling me is everything you've been thinking of for the past month about this king car.
Yep.
Like I think you would do it no matter how hard it got, because that's just how you are, and that's the fighting spirit you have.
Yeah, they'll be dragging me out of my wheelchair. I'll have some kind of stupid controls in the damn thing, and no fear to don't care if it's going to be my last ride or not. I mean, it's my love, my passion, and hate me, love me, whatever. I'm coming to a derby somewhere. And that's another thing that I want to touch base on a little bit. Why? And I'm going to throw some names out there because I would love to see a promoter somewhere build a platform where drivers, higher caliber drivers, or maybe not even higher caliber, drivers that want that opportunity or that chance to go against that certain person. So like call outs. So let's think about this. UFC. They match up what people want to see. Why can't promoters start matching up what people want to see? I know a promoter that's working on it, and I think it's going to be great. But on the other end, why can't me as a driver, why can't I call out Trent Braun? Why can't I call out Toby Hiley? They're the guys I want to beat because they're on like I got a bucket list. You know what I mean? And my bucket list, because I'm so competitive that to be the best, you got to beat the best. And that's where our sport, I'm telling you right now, sucks because there's so many drivers out there that don't like competition. They got to take 4 or 5 guys with them to go to a derby. And it's just, and they politic like hell to get that checkered flag. And I don't think that ain't how it's supposed to be. Let's put these guys that think are the best, let's put them against each other. Let's set that stage. What do you think that would do for the sport, Freebie?
I think that would be the greatest possible thing to ever happen to the sport, because that would truly show you who is the best. The guy with no fear is truly the best. That's, to be honest with you, that premise right there is the reason I took all of the coins I had. I took everything I had, and I bought a car to run the King of Ohio.
That's
to
right.
Truly see where I rank in that level. There's no other reason, because other than that, it's a terrible idea. Like it truly is. But that
right.
The fighting spirit and the desire to see where I truly rank at when it comes to the best of the best is the reason I did it.
Yeah, because I'll be honest with you. There ain't a driver out there that scares me.
So you'd be willing to take on anybody in this entire country in a one-on-one.
That's right. Any given day, any time. Build a set of rules. We'll build to them. I don't care if it's bone stock or it's full weld. I believe I got enough seat time that I'll be all right.
So, well, this brings us to a very interesting topic. Who do you think are some of the top? What is your top 10 list when it comes to the top 10 best drivers currently in the entire sport? Who are they?
I don't know. Is there 10?
What do you mean? I mean,
I don't have a top 10.
huh?
Like, I'm thinking about, I was going to contact a person here or there. I mean, I can't answer that question. That's a question I can't answer. I think, I mean, I can say Chad Markley. I can say Bobby Whitaker. I believe they're two guys that kind of are a lot like me. It's hard. You know, I watch every derby that's out there. I watch every driver. There's a lot of guys that are not recognized at all, that are wheelmen and a half. You know, I just think I I can't put a top 10 there. You know, there's a lot of good ones, but I think there's a handful that are above the rest when it comes to wheeling a car in any condition, in any way, shape, or form that car is. Whether it's broken steering, flat tires, missing a wheel, there's just some guys that's got it. And they don't get flustered. They can turn the switch on and they can turn the switch off. You know, there's a lot of great drivers out there, but they run in. I don't know how good they are because I've never seen them. I would say Trace Braun. I would put him out there as one of them. I've seen him run alone. That's kind of my thing. If they're out there swinging alone, you know, they ain't got 4 or 5 of them with them. You know, how good are you really if you're not? You know, that's what makes me hard to put a top 10 together. If everywhere you go, you got 5 or 6 guys working with you, I want to see how good you are out on your own. Bill Miller's pretty good. I give Bill credit. He flies alone a lot. You know, some of your big names in the sport though don't really fly alone much. So I don't know how good they really are. You know, that's my preference on it.
That's I could. Yeah, I mean, it's I can agree with that 100%. You know, like when you it's I mean, yeah, because we talked about this when me
I
and
mean,
Dustin.
you look at like Mad Mike DeFriscia. He does a lot of it. He runs alone a lot. You know, so I would say he's another one. You know, you just gotta. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but a lot of them ain't coming to mind right yet. You know,
Yeah,
because it's you kind of get in that starstruck moment. You know, like, oh, you're thinking of this person, this person, this person, but then you got to think, well, yeah, they've won this much and won this and won that, but they did it with a group and a group, and it's always a group and a group. You know, and it's that's a tough one.
I get you. Like, so me and Dustin, and I even brought the point up with Kinman last night, was you can win a derby without actually winning the derby. And when Dustin said that, he got a lot of flack for it, but I've done it. You can win a derby politically barely do any work. I've done it at a lot of shows.
Right.
But the thing about it is that when you go and you truly do win the Derby, and like everybody there knows that you won the Derby, like Gage Sumner this year, Gold Rush, everybody
Yep.
knows at the end of the night that guy won that Derby. The feeling that you get after it is unmatched when it
Yeah.
comes to.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, Gage, that's the best I've ever. I mean, don't get me wrong. He goes to River City Rampage, and he puts an ass whooping on guys with that even in that lesser class. You know, I've seen Gage do both. I've seen him lay back, and I've seen him run hard. I mean, what he did at Gold Rush was epic. You know, that car was right. That car was hard. But he did say there was a problem with the car. That's why he ran it like that. You know, I'd have probably done the same thing.
Let's see. Let's read some things from the chat here. Oh, somebody asked. So, do you think there are any Canadians that could be put on that list?
Yeah, yeah. You know, and that's why I didn't think about it. I think Rick Clark, you know, would fit in that program because I think he flies a lot alone. I mean, he's got some people he run, but I think he flies alone a lot. Yeah, definitely. That what's the other one that comes down a lot? Les
Yeah, Les Johnson.
Johnson. I think he does too. You know, he's not afraid. He's sticking his neck out there, running by himself. You know, people name some names, or says something. It'll, like I said, my memory is terrible. You know, I don't know why it's that way, but I lost my one grandfather to Alzheimer's, and I blame it on that. I might be getting a little touch of it, but
Well, I mean, you did buy a new helmet last year, and it looks like you've been running it for 20 years. I think that might have a little bit of like reasoning why behind it.
I'm surprised I ain't got a drool cup talking to you.
Guy gets a new helmet. He's like, "This thing's bad. This thing's pretty sweet." And then I see him a month later, and he's going to run out there. And I'm like, "What happened to your helmet?" Well, you see the pillar right there. We gotta hate that thing a few times, but it's all right. We're good, you know.
Yeah, I got a dent in my fucking B pillar from my head. Literally a dent in my B pillar from my head when I got knocked out at San Filippo.
So, it's just about the 10 o'clock time, which that's where we get alpha here. So,
Yeah.
the last question I want to ask you is, you've ran almost all over the country. Where's the hardest place you've ever went out to run at?
I think Ohio, man. I haven't won a Derby in Ohio. But there you go again. That's my thing. Numbers gets me every time. But the boys in Ohio, I can give them credit. They know who they got to beat, so they come right after me right off the get. You know what I mean? And their numbers get me every time. I mean, Ohio is a tough place to win a Derby if you ain't got numbers. If you got numbers, just like anywhere else. But you know, Ohio has always been a numbers game to me, I think, and you know, I like Dustin's format, but I think we should stretch it out to another round of the format and get even lesser cars in the feature. And I think that's how it literally supposed to be set up. I think we need to run multiple times in single round, you know, 3, and get it down to where no different than like Gold Rush did or whatever, you know what I mean? And just do that format all the way through. So when you get to the feature, there's only 5 or 6 cars.
I get you. So when it comes to running out in Ohio, when it's all a numbers game, why do you always go alone?
because I don't have anybody from our area that's ever moved up to my level. And I'm not a politicker. I don't run around in politics. I mean, if a guy comes over, hey, we're good, yeah, we're good, but I don't go around and try to, I mean, at King, I had a couple guys in the feature there, but it just didn't work out for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So where are you headed to next year? What's on the horizon for Pete Hansen?
Well, my next car coming in the shop, which will be tomorrow, is definitely my King car. King of Ohio is definitely on my list. I've been talking to Tyson Shelley a little bit. He's invited me out. I think I'm going to Utah. I just like that. Try a different platform, Them guys run hard out there. I like to run hard. If I can run hard, I can do both. That don't bother me. Running hard don't bother me at all. But I just want to give a whirl in Utah. I've never been to Utah, and it just looks like beautiful country too. So I think that'll be a cool experience. I keep busting TJ McPhee. I see him shooting mountain lions and big bull elk and big mule deer, and man, I love that stuff. I mean, a cat's on my bucket list, and he's told me, come on out, and next year I might just go out there and do that too. Life's too short. I mean, take advantage of it while you can, because then you're gonna be too old and you can't do it. I don't know if I might end up on a Blizzard Bash team next year. We'll see. Maybe a Gold Rush. I don't know. That's all to be determined. I don't have none of it set in stone. The only one I got set in stone right now is King of Ohio.
Awesome. Well, we just hit the 10 o'clock mark. Thank you for coming on, Pete. Any last words before we get off of here?
No, not really. Everybody get in the garage and get built.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. We broke our viewer record by like 200 tonight, which was amazing. Tomorrow we have Don Santel coming on, and then next week we have Frankie Guy on Monday, TJ McCullough from Dead Man Derby on Tuesday, Sam Williams from Ultimate Derby on Wednesday, and then Tim Clark is going to wrap up the week on Thursday because I will not be doing a stream on Friday. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support on here. We shall see you guys on the next one.
Hey, Freebie.
What's up?
Hey, I'm going to come stay at your house next week because I want to be on live with all the promoters.
Oh, God. Oh, God. It was hard enough to get him to agree to this anyways. I don't think that's going to help us at all.
Oh, all right, guys. You have a great night.
Awesome. Thank you, Pete. Thank you guys for watching. We shall see you tomorrow.